So I want to explain what just happened. Why it took me a long time to set up clean feed. So
are we recording?
Yeah. We've been recording for precisely 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Nice.
So I looking back on this, I think it's unremarkable, but in the moment I was being entirely gaslit by myself. So what was happening was is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is the right word. So I'm like, okay, clean feed, the program we used to record, let me go into my password manager and see what the password I have set for clean feed is. And I go into my password manager. It says the username is swingline, all one word lowercase, and the password is swingline0. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't
trust that.
I've never. I'm like, did someone get into my password manager? Did I have a stroke when I was writing down my username and password? So I typed that in. I'm like, is it? And the clean feed doesn't, like, no, you absolute dipshit. It is not that. Like, of course my name isn't Swingline and my password isn't Swingline0. I'm like, what the hell? So I Google Swingline. Let me do it now. It's a stapler brand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
oh, okay.
Corporate infiltration into my password app. Then I look on my desk. I'm like, wait. And I pick up my stapler. I look at the brand. There's nothing on there. Then I pick up the staples and I look at the brand and it's Swingline. I'm like, oh, my password really was Swingline0 because I was attempting to use a different password than the one I use for everything. And so I looked at my staples that are on my desk and I just accidentally put Swingline as my username. When in reality my username was my name. So now I've changed everything. So it is not the listeners will not be able to hack in based on that info. But I was in a state of who is Swingline and why are they in my passwords? So that's why it took me a while. Yeah, exactly. Or like, have I just gone into like a dissociative fugue in which like my other self is named Swingline and has signed up for a clean feed account? That's where I'm at.
I will share more news. Actually, hold on. Do I have like any news? I don't I just have some pedantic stuff. Like, we went shopping yesterday, and it was like very nice to go out shopping. We went to a Wegmans, which is like a kind of fancy store like Kroger or Aldi, if any of you listeners are familiar with those. And like, it was just very nice to go there, and just kind of be like, I can shop. I was wearing a face mask. I maintained social distancing with everyone, but it was like very therapeutic for me. We got wings for my birthday dinner, which will be Monday night. I don't know, just like small things that are happening. I'm almost done with my first class.
Nice.
I just finished The Dragon Prince, which is by the same people that did Avatar: The Last Airbender, and is a Netflix exclusive, and it is very, very good.
Ooh. I'm looking at the pictures. Cool looking things. It looks a little Ruby-esque, the art style. Strangely enough.
Yeah.
Is it like 3D like that, or is it just look like that
similar
in the images?
To Ruby, the art style, it just looks like that in the images, but the art style and the animation get taken used to, especially in Season 1. Because it definitely has, like, some rough around the edges animation to begin with, but I really like it.
I kind of felt that way about She-Ra, except I don't know why I called it She-Ra. except I never got used to it, and I don't actually love the art style in She-Ra or the animation, but I love the show. Anyway, I understand what you mean about feeling therapeutic to go out and do things safely. I went to my grandparents' house with a good chunk of the family, and I had insisted I wasn't going to go. I was very adamant on it. But I decided to go anyway, just in case, like, I was the only one who was thinking about social distancing, so I could, like, remind people. I thought, like, just, like, my kind of, like, stickler presence would be enough to remind people to social distance. But, like, I went there, and, like, everyone was totally prepared. People had masks, even if they weren't always wearing them. My grandmother had set up these chairs all around the yard, far away from each other, that we all, like, actually sat in, and it just, like, all totally worked out, and people were as safe as we could be. And so that just totally restored my my whatever it's called, my magica bar.
And I've got a bit of that coming up. So my grandmother that lives down here in Goochland, we go and see her every Tuesday at least for dinner. And, you know, we're sitting around a dinner table, and it's not, like, 6 feet apart, but it's mostly because, like, my mom and I don't go out, my grandma doesn't go out, and my dad is very, like, precautious when he goes out to do his teaching job. But next week, we will be leaving to go to Maryland for my other grandparents to help with a doctor's visit, and that is, like, where I'm gonna really be like, oh god, we're so close, and, like, I don't know where everything's been. I was talking to my mom about this, and then we can start the episode after this. It was just that, like, coronavirus is one of those things that is always on my mind, but is also never on my mind.
What do you mean?
Because I'm always like, no, I don't want to go out. Like, we should eat at home. Like, don't go out, you know, wash your hands. But, like, when we do go out, I'll just walk out, and then I'll be like, whoops, I'm forgetting my mask.
Oh, yeah, that's happened to me several times.
And it's just, like, very frustrating, because I'm like, please, I promise, like, I know what I'm doing, I'm just very scatterbrained.
Yeah, usually I remember early enough that I can go back in and grab it. All right. I guess this works as a cold open, a long cold open where we start with me talking about a stapler, and then we talk about coronavirus. Hello, and welcome to Fools in Fiction.
The world's longest cold open.
We are the Fools, and
we
this
got
week the fiction is the movie The End of Evangelion by... I don't know why I said by. Movies aren't by people. I guess they're by people, but they're not by individuals. That's kind of a really cool thing about movies, is that they have such a, like...
Hold on.
There's directors, and there's producers, and there's screenwriters. But this was directed by two people. Hideaki Anno and Kazuya Tsurumaki. Names I do not know, but now I do. So Joe...
Anno is the person behind Avon.
Oh, Anno is the one who... created the stuff.
Yeah.
So Joe saw this a while ago. Or here. So I'm going to explain my history with this, then you explain yours, okay?
Okay.
So Eva was the first anime I really sat down and watched ever. Like all the way through. And it was over the course of maybe one day or two nights. 4 years ago, freshman year of college with Cody. And so it was very late at night, or at least late at night for me as a freshman. Excuse me. Oh, not cutting that out. It's impossible.
It happened to you this time.
Excuse me. So it was super late at night, and then the legendary episodes 24 and 25 hit, and I remember literally, like, laying on the ground while I was watching those. Not purposefully. Just being like, not having an existential crisis, but having like an anime crisis, an art crisis. Just like why, and then I didn't participate at all in Ava for 4 years, and yesterday I watched the End of Evangelion with my friend Kevin, who had also seen it, and listeners might remember had an hour-long rant about it that was on this very podcast that I forgot, and I asked Kevin right before we watched it last night, hey, have you seen Evangelion or the movie? And he was like, Finn, we have talked about this at length on the very podcast you are about to talk about it at length on. And so I remember that. But anyway, that's so in summary, I watched the whole thing in 1 or 2 sittings, or the whole anime in 1 or 2 sittings 4 years ago, and then the movie last night. How about you, Joe?
So I watched Ava in high school for the first time. But some listeners might know this, that because of how high school went for me, my brain just does not remember most of it. And so because of that, I lost a lot of memories of like media I consumed throughout it. And so watching Ava again, so hold on. The reason I watched it again is my very good friend Chase came down to visit a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, we had been quarantined and everything like that. We were very safe. And I had not seen him for, probably like 2 years at this point, just because of the way things worked out. And we were just like, well, what do we want to do? And I was like, well, I have a bunch of stuff that I need to watch. Like, what do you want to, would you want to watch anything with me? And he saw that Ava was on the list, and he's like, we're going to watch Ava. And so I got to basically experience it as if it were totally new to me. Except for like remembering a couple of parts pretty clearly.
Had he seen it before?
And so we binged it across a couple of nights. Yes, he had only watched it for the first time like about a year ago, I think, something like that. So he remembered much more than I did. But there's definitely just a lot of me going like, wait, what? Because Ava is confusing. And also very sad. I think, like, the happiest thing in the entire franchise is the end of the show, which is, depending on your chronology / what happens in the end of Evangelion, which we're going to get to, is, like, maybe not real.
I think we can definitely author it into reality, or out of reality.
Okay. It definitely, in some form, exists.
For sure. That's the one truth of Ava, is that it for sure exists.
Why not? Why don't you tell me? This is how it always goes: is Finn just talks about what he feels with a certain amount of media, and then I just like nod and go like, man, that's very cool. This is what I think. So hit me with your thoughts and ideas, Finn.
So after recovering the memory of the podcast episode I did with Kevin, where he relayed the entire plot of the End of Evangelion and his frustrations with it, I watched this kind of as an experiment to see if I could watch it, like, consume media through a very determined or like a predetermined lens, to see if I can like go into this with, instead of trying to follow the plot or trying to remember what's happening, or I mean trying to remember what happened or trying to understand what's happening, I went into this in an effort to appreciate only the spectacle, just to see what would happen. And because I knew that it had a convoluted plot, and I kind of remembered it, I think I remembered the main emotional points. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to, for example, remember who exactly Adam and Lilith are. I'm just going to be like, okay, that's them. I'm just going to go into this, and I'm going to the light from the screen will enter my eyes, and whatever happens in my brain will happen. I'm not going to try to analyze it. I'm going to perceive. And I had a pretty good time. I liked the bit 3/4 of the way through that is Kevin's least favorite part, where we were looking at images at incredible frame rates. I like the imagery even of the first half. I really liked just like the militaristic stuff, the sciencey military stuff. I think we watched the sub. I thought that Shinji's voice actor was fantastic. There were a few screams in there that were some of the most heart-wrenching sounds yet. Yeah, I really enjoyed it a whole lot. Afterwards, Kevin explained to me what happened, and I admitted I did not understand it. But, like, not... So I as I believe I've said before on the podcast, have a pretty bad, like, reading/viewing comprehension skill. Like, I have to really be focused on something and really be thinking about it hard to understand, like, what's really happening, and put things together and stuff like that. Especially if I'm watching something where I'm reading subtitles at the same time. So oftentimes watching media is me just like intensely trying to soak it in and understand what's happening. And if I get caught up on something, like I'm like, oh, I don't know who this character is, I'll need to pause and look it up and blah, blah, blah. Or else I won't be happy with what I'm watching. But this time I was just like, it is all just going to go into me in a big wave. It's all going in. And it was like a much better viewing experience than I think it would have been otherwise. I mean, of course, that did mean that I did not understand what was happening, which is something that Kevin has told me is something that can be done with this movie, despite how it may seem. So I guess I did lose something in that sense, but I can always watch videos later explaining it. But in terms of actually just like having a good time watching a movie, I think that my approach worked. So that's the result of my experiment.
I watched this dubbed, so I cannot speak to how good the voice acting is in the sub. I thought it was like it had some really good emotion in it, but it also definitely had like some of the 90s and early anime problems of like not being like the highest of quality voice acting like overall. So I liked it. I might in the future go back and rewatch the sub and compare and contrast, but like overall I think it was fine. Regarding like understanding the plot, I mean, the End of Evangelion almost exists outside of like mortal comprehension. Like it is so confusing that part of it is just like part of a not insignificant part of the enjoyment is just seeing the art.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's some shots in it that are just like, I don't want to say like breathtaking, but very like cool and good to look at. So I definitely think that it's like, I don't know how to describe it because it's very sad and dystopian, especially if you consider this like the true ending of the series and not the ending that the show posits. But like I think that's more fitting for the tone. So it's just like I don't know. I think it's like you have to watch it to understand the vibe of Evangelion, but not necessarily the plot.
Yeah, something that really amazed me was when Kevin was relaying what was actually happening and like what the backstory was. It made sense, but I didn't like none of that I got from watching the actual thing. There's a whole thing with aliens, unrelated to angels, that I had no knowledge of until Kevin explained it to me. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I would say it's like unrelated to angels. If you're talking about like the black orb and the white orb,
yeah, all that stuff.
Like it is related to angels, but like not so stringently that it's not that it like breaks up the flow very jarringly, but it isn't what you would expect, so it makes the flow feel very funky for a bit.
Yeah. Sorry, this is a little unrelated, but I just remembered something I was going to say. The thing that surprised me most about the movie was the English language kind of upbeat music that went down when everything was going down, or that played when everything was going down. It was very good vibe.
I forgot.
I was not expecting. Like, I've seen the images, and you expect there to be like a choir or like string arrangements, but no, it's like English language pop.
So, in the English dub, if I'm remembering this correctly, it might be in another part of Eva. They're just like playing orchestra music, for like an uncomfortably long amount of time, and it like. I forget when I'm watching this. It's like pretty late, and I'm just here dissociating because I'm like, what is going on? Like, we're having all this serious stuff, and then it's just like popping back to Ode to Joy like it's nothing. I definitely think it's a very crazy experience for the senses.
For sure.
I think a big question that comes up a lot in discussions like these is how did you like the ending, like the very end of it?
So I'm on the Google page for the End of Evangelion right now, and so my big question at the end was, why does Shinji choke Asuka? And I'm looking at people also ask. So I just Googled the End of Evangelion. Why does Shinji choke Asuka? That was the only moment where I was pulled into caring enough about the plot that it kind of like disturbed me. I was like, wait, why is he like, what? Like I can kind of like ride the waves of the emotion throughout the whole thing, but during that bit, it was just like so different than what I expected, which is not a bad thing. I don't expect my media to always conform to my expectations, but it like startled me. The actual
So I can try to explain this.
I read the this like paragraph here. It says
okay.
The card translation says that Shinji started to strangle Asuka because he wanted to confirm that rejection and denial exist once more. By going back to a world where rejection and denial exist, Shinji has admitted that he feared them and faced that fear. Okay. It's like I mean, frankly, I don't know if I really care why Shinji chokes Asuka. It's not like something that factors into my enjoyment of it. If you want to talk about it, though, for sure.
So, well, no, I sympathize in a similar but disparate way. That like, so the theory that I have heard and subscribed to is that so when that scene shows up and you see the cross that Misato gave him, it's like rusted. So I think like some time has passed, and so he does not know if he's hallucinating because he kept hallucinating Rei, and so he's choking Asuka to confirm that she is real.
Sure.
is the way I interpreted it. But regardless of that, I think it's like it's one of those things where the act itself is what matters. It doesn't, like, the idea behind it doesn't matter. So, like, when you have those big twist endings like Shutter Island or The Killing Joke, where it's like, oh my god, did the Joker, or did Batman actually kill the Joker? And part of it is not, do we care whether, what he was thinking while he was doing that? It was, he started to choke the Joker, period. And that's already, like, shocking. So I think, Shinji could have choked Asuka for, like, 100 million reasons. And I think that the main thing to get out of that scene isn't, why did he do this? It's that, whoa, that's crazy that he did it.
I guess I can see that. I don't know. I think that this all, I mean, from my selfish perspective, maybe, or that's not the right phrase. For the, if I'm thinking about the role that Ava in general plays in my own life, it's kind of amazing to me how much I care about Ava and how little I care about its plot or, like, its characters, if that makes any sense. Like, I
am inclined to agree.
I don't know how to justify it or explain it, but, like, I really care about this anime, but I can't name a thing I care about in it. Like, sure, I enjoy the aesthetic, I enjoy the music, I enjoy the characters and the plot, but for some reason I really care about it. The show as a whole. And, like, it's, like, heck, I memorized the theme song freshman year. I'm making a playlist on Spotify that I've been working on for the last 4.5 years, that starts with A Cruel Angel's Thesis and ends with Fly Me to the Moon, like in some sort of reference to this show. It, like,
so
maybe it's because it's the first anime I sat down and watched the full thing of. I don't know, but it's Ava holds a special place in my heart. Yeah, it's like I care about what it did to my brain more than I care about the medium itself, if that makes sense.
I think that can I think that can happen, like, a lot. Because so two things. One, tangent, is that we were watching on Netflix, and because they could not get the rights to Fly Me to the Moon, they had a different outro, and I hated it.
That's actually the worst.
Awful.
Fly Me to the Moon is some of the best stuff in Ava.
I was like, this has ruined Ava. But no, I think that, like, I definitely like Soul Eater a lot, which is the first anime I ever watched, outside of, like, Digimon and Pokemon and stuff like that. It was the first anime I ever watched. It was the first manga I read. And so, like, I hold a special place for that in my heart, even though there's definitely parts of it that I do not care about, like, at all. And there are parts of it that I, like, actively dislike, but it still has, like, when people ask me, like, hey, what's one of your favorite anime, I'll always throw it out just because it, like, has that relationship with me.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, like, a perfectly valid thing to feel, especially with Ava.
So I wonder what's different between things that we enjoy like this, or I don't know if you enjoy it in the same way that I'm explaining it, but I wonder what the difference is between that experience and, or here, let me phrase this in this way. Labyrinth is my favorite movie. I watch it all the time. I know every scene. I care about every little, like, piece in the set. I care about all the dialogue. I know where, like, what scenes the acting is bad in. I, like, know so much trivia. I've seen the behind the scenes. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite movie. I also love End of Evangelion, yet I had absolutely no interest in watching. I I love Evangelion, Neon Genesis Evangelion, but I had no interest in watching the end of Evangelion until yesterday for this podcast. And like, I don't totally care about understanding the plot, and I don't care about all the things I said I don't care about, but I still love it like almost just as much as Labyrinth. But I don't know how to justify that when I guess maybe the thing is, like, watching it was such a formative experience that I'm just more like, it kind of already did its thing. It already succeeded. And so it kind of doesn't matter what else it does in my mind. I don't know, but that the same could be said for Labyrinth.
I can agree with that.
Do you have anything that like just kind of well, I guess Soul Eater, you said. But do you have anything that like just by default kind of is so good in your brain that you're almost disinterested in it?
Yes and no. For like, so I love The Karate Kid. I mean, I love movies like 80s movies of that era and in that kind of same vein, but I really love The Karate Kid. And I even would say I like The Karate Kid 2, which is like not as great a sequel at all. But like other pieces of media for it, I don't care about. I've seen The Karate Kid 3 maybe once. I have never seen the new Karate Kid, which is the title of the movie. I have seen the reboot Karate Kid once, when I was like very young, and I have not seen the Cobra Kai show at all. And I was just like, someone was like, "Oh, there's a Cobra Kai show coming on. Like, you love the Karate Kid," and I'm like, "Cool." And then I just like didn't go watch it.
Oh yeah, I think this is the same thing for sure.
And it was just like I have that kind of same fascination with the Karate Kid that you have with Labyrinth, where I know a lot of it by heart, but like in a similar vein, like just the aura that it gives off, like I can't get from another part of that franchise. It's like actually I have a better version of this. So Avatar: The Last Airbender is like beyond a shadow of a doubt one of my favorite shows. However, I don't care about like the tie-in comics that they do. I don't care about the live action movie. And granted, that's because it's bad. But like I just like, even when we didn't know if it was going to be good or bad, I was just like, I don't care. And the sequel series, Legend of Korra, I also just did not care about at all at the time, because I was just like, how can this even equate to just like the raw feeling that I got from Avatar?
Yeah. I guess the big difference, the grand mystery for me, is that I don't even care about the base stuff that makes up Evangelion. So it's like, what am I caring about if not like any particular thing in Evangelion? I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't actually like Evangelion. Maybe I just think I do. Maybe I've just convinced myself that it is part of my identity that I'm someone who likes Evangelion. Yeah, exactly. But I do. I like it. I like it a whole lot. I enjoy watching it, but I have no desire to do that. It's bizarre.
That's kind of how I feel about like the early stuff of Ruby. Mm-hmm. Is inherently like, I really like the characterization that we get for a lot of the characters, and I like some of the fights, but I never want to watch it like at all.
Yeah, I feel it.
Like I'm just like, please stop. Which once again, like, not to shit on the people that made early Ruby. Like, it's just something weird. I don't know. It's very odd to be dissociated with it.
For sure.
That's another thing is JoJo's. Like, I love JoJo's. And there are parts of it that I like to rewatch or like to revisit. but like Phantom Blood and even Battle Tendency to a degree, I just like, I don't want to say I don't care, but part of me is just like it, same old stuff.
I guess maybe the thing we like isn't the thing, it's having watched the thing or having put the thing in our brains and having it in there. It's like we're glad that it has integrated itself into our identities, and it's not necessarily the piece of medium that we can keep on coming back to that is the attractive bit. It's the fact that it has already.
I think that might work.
Put it into our brains. I don't know. I don't have a very good theory on this, but I think that Evangelion is a interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. I think the really interesting thing for you would be to like tie you down and force you to watch Death True Squared, which is part of Evangelion, but it's just a recap. Theoretically, you could watch it to try and get the full Evangelion experience. And I would say, but like it's just a recap thing, that you like even diehard fans that I'm aware of like don't care about it. Whereas like the End of Evangelion and the what are they called? I forget the name of the franchise. Hold on. You are not...
like the whole like the not
the like kind of
things.
Yeah, the not stuff. Basically the Puella Madoka Magica movies compared to the original show.
Yeah. Or the first two movies, like, not Rebellion.
It's those have like very important places in people's hearts for their experience for Eva, but like Death True Squared is unimportant. It's very odd.
Yeah, I mean, I would not object. I do enjoy putting Eva into myself, and I'm the kind of person who will like listen to a song 16 times in a row. So like that would not faze me.
Rebuild, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Sorry, it was going to kill me if I didn't remember.
Yeah, Rebuild. So do we have anything else to say about this? I don't know. I realized we've talked very little about the content of of the movie.
I think it's hard to talk about though, because like it's very confusing. Like the Earth has a bunch of giant aliens forming out of it. Nerve compound gets like raided. Ray kills what's his name?
Most people.
Ikari.
Yeah.
Well, most people. Yeah, Gendo. I think of him as Ikari because apparently like
that's his last name, I think.
He gets called that more in the
Something I like about the
I don't know, it's just
about the End of Evangelion is that after you watch it, you don't really want to talk about it. You want to talk about like art and movies and like experiences. And I think that it's a cool thing that it inspires that. It feels like a monumental work, even if admittedly it's not on a stable foundation. And I think that has value in itself. The aesthetic of it.
Yeah, it's like one of those pieces like you don't go to the Louvre to see the Mona Lisa and be like, yep, that's the Mona Lisa. Sure is that. You go to the Louvre to be like, that's the Mona Lisa. What does this say about art? And I think Eva is very much in the same way that, like, I don't think you consume Eva to be like, I'm going to watch a
I wonder what's going to happen to Shinji.
Watch Eva to then immediately... Yeah, no, like... I'm not saying that Shinji doesn't have a character arc. Everyone else has a character arc. But, like, I'm not saying that those don't matter. You do not watch Eva to watch that.
Yeah. Or, I mean, some people could. I know when I was watching the show the first time and only time I watched it, my bewilderment from it was because, like, it was it only happened because I went into it trying to totally understand. And so I'm kind of grateful that I went in that way. But I think the more proper way, if that means anything, of going into it is what what you're saying, to think about it as a work and think about, like, the things it makes you think about, and to feel all the emotions, and to, I don't know. It's good stuff, I think. I think that this conversation is very distinctly missing an Anna Simpson. I feel like an Anna Simpson would have a lot to say. For listeners who may not know, Anna Simpson is
there are a lot of
person
people that I know.
Evangelion.
I have a great multitude of friends that might hear this podcast episode and be like, "Oh my god, how could you not talk about X, Y, or Z?"
I feel like a fake fan. Maybe I am a
definitely
fake fan.
missing, but
whatever.
I mean, neither of us have watched the Rebuild movies.
Yeah.
So I think that does make us fake fans. But I also think that, like,
well, that's why we're fools in fiction and not like smart people.
I'm with you on this. Where, like, I'm with you on this, though, of, like, not wanting to watch Ava, but liking it. Yeah. Because my brain is like, you haven't seen the Rebuild movies. You got to see those. And then my brain is also like, literally do anything but that.
Yeah.
Like, just sleep for 10 hours. Don't do it. And I'm like, why? Like, they're supposed to be good. And it's like, no, just don't do it. So.
All right, I think we said what we're going to say.
Are we adjourned?
I think we're adjourned. Ow.
Yeah.
That gavel turned into my hand at the last second. What a devilish trick.
God, what a crazy power that is.
Oh my god.
All right, do you want to do I almost said shout-outs.
First of all, Simple Flips.
What's the word? Yeah, shout-outs to Simple Flips. No, what is the word? Not sponsorships.
Housekeeping. No, it's
how am I this dumb?
Whatever, I'll do it. Leave us
housekeeping.
Leave us a rating and review on iTunes. Send us an email at foolsandfiction@gmail.com. Every email we receive right now is someone thinking that our name is Barbara Smith, and in fact, it like signs our emails like in the subject, or in like the 2-line Barbara Smith. I don't know what's happening, but I'll keep you all updated on that. But try and get us out of the identity of Barbara Smith if you can. If you address us as Joe and Finn, if you send us emails and say, "Hey, Joe and Finn," I think that'll keep us from completing our transformation into Barbara Smith. The
which one of us is Barbara and which one of us is Smith?
I'm Barbara.
Oh, damn it! I wanted to be Barbara.
What else do we have? Oh yeah, we've got a subreddit. r/foolsandfiction. If you want to be on the show, just let us know. We would love to have you. It's been a while since we've had guests. Call outs. That's not it. God, what are they called? Who knows? It's all right. God, I forgot that entire podcast episode with Kevin. I guess I can't be relied on to remember anything. Are there any more?
We did the email, we did the subreddit. Did you talk about Spreaker.com/user/
PNWM?
PNWM?
No, I did not. That is where you can hear some other podcasts in the Luminary Network.
They are far more composed than ours.
Yeah, I feel like we had a very good vibe on this one, though. I really enjoyed it. I liked hearing your thoughts and expressing my thoughts on this spectacle of a movie.
I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
All right. So I have failed in my duties, but only slightly. So I didn't make the drink that I promised I was going to make, but that's for like a multitude of reasons. I did, however, try new stuff to drink that isn't alcoholic. So I had Hubert's Lemonade, which is a brand of lemonade, I guess. I found it when I was shopping in Wegmans, and I had their blueberry lemonade, and it was like very, very good. It was like tart, like Chick-fil-A lemonade. So that's like already a big plus for me. But I liked it.
I love tart lemonade. So good.
What's the other thing? Oh, I got something called Frizzante from Wegmans, and it's like the bottle reads European soda, and I'm like, where in Europe? And it refuses to tell me. It's sour cherry lemon. It is also very good.
Sour cherry lemon.
So those are
God.
Joe's. Those are my recommended drinks. I promise I will drink alcohol for this podcast at some point.
We'll make you do it.
That sounds not as healthy as like it actually is.
As it actually as alcohol we know
right.
is the panacea.
Yeah. Am I finishing off the viewers, or are we just trailing off into incoherency forever?
I think you've got to end them.
All right. Please, for the love of God, turn the podcast off.